What's going on, everybody? I'm Johnny Brook. Welcome back to another Crafted Workshop video. In today's video, I'm going to show you how I built this outdoor kind of modern dining table. It's all made out of solid ipe, so it's incredibly heavy, but just turned out really gorgeous. Also, at the end of the video, I'm going to show you how I built this pergola kit. It's a really nice, clean, modern looking pergola. It went up in a couple of hours, and I think it just totally transformed this back patio space for us. I'm also going to have some more outdoor projects coming up over the next couple of weeks. It's that time of year, so stay tuned for that. Hopefully you enjoy, but without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with this build. I built the tabletop on this project out of ipe 3x3s, and ipe is an incredibly dense, oily, tropical hardwood from Brazil, and these characteristics make it an ideal choice for outdoor furniture, but they also make ipe pretty challenging to work with since the boards are just incredibly heavy and pretty hard on your tools. The 3x3s I purchased were rough, so the first step for me was to mill them all flat and square, which really took a while. But if you don't have a jointer or planer, you could also just buy pre-milled stock and skip this step. ipe is also pretty expensive. The wood for this tabletop was about $500, so if you wanted to keep the cost down, you could use pressure-treated 4x4s and just stain them to get a similar look. After getting all the boards milled square, I laid them out on my assembly table and added the washers between each board just to give me an idea of the final look. And it's important to have gaps like this in outdoor tabletops just so water can drain through and not pool up on the surface. And I started with 3 washers between each board here, but ended up with 2 washers in the final piece, which gave me a gap of about 1/8 of an inch between each board. Next, I could cut the ends of the board square and cut them to final length. I first cut off one end of each board at the miter saw, making sure to cut away any cracked areas. And since these were rough 3x3x6s, they were actually about 76 inches long, so I had a few inches on either end to work with. After trimming one end, I set up a stop block on my miter saw station using a square and some clamps. And my miter saw's stop block system doesn't go to 72 inches, but I was able to add this setup and make it work. And it's really important that all these boards are the exact same length, so you really want to make sure to have some kind of stop block system in place if you can. Once all the boards were cut to length, I could start drilling the holes for the all thread to run through, which is what connects all the boards to one another. All right, so let's talk for a second about marking out all these hole locations and getting them drilled out. Obviously, it's pretty critical that these holes line up well. Now, I'm using 1/2 inch all thread here, and I'm drilling 5/8 inch holes, and so that's gonna give me a little bit of wiggle room so I can make some adjustment, but we still want to try to be as precise as we can here. So what I've done is create 2 quick little jigs so that I can lay out and center punch all of these holes consistently on each side of all of these boards. It's 33 holes in all, so it's gonna be easier if I just create a quick little jig and make my life a little bit simpler. So basically the way this one works is I've got a piece here on the end and a piece on the side, and it just hooks over either end of the boards. Basically hook it over, make sure it's well seated, center punch it, same thing on the other end, and then I can flip the board over. Go ahead and do it on this end as well. And I'm done with those 2. And then I've got this longer jig to mark the hole center. It works pretty much the same. I just make sure to line up this top edge with the kind of board here, and then I can do the same thing. Center punch, and then I'll just flip it over and do the same thing. And so then in a matter of like 30 seconds, I have the hole locations marked out on both sides of this board. And so that way I can go over to the drill press, I can drill halfway through on each side. It's gonna leave me with a much cleaner hole. Drilling into ipe, especially holes this big, your bit's gonna get super, super hot. So anything you can do to kind of help mitigate that is gonna be super helpful. I'm gonna go ahead and get to it. I got a lot of drilling to do. The first holes I needed to drill were the countersunk holes for the nut and washer to sit in on the outside edge of the table. And I used an 1.5 inch Forstner bit for this and drilled just deep enough so the nut would be fully recessed. After figuring out that depth, I set the depth stop on my drill press and drilled the other countersunk holes on the 2 outermost boards. Next, I switched over to a 5/8 inch Forstner bit and continued drilling into the board until I got about halfway through. I then flipped the board over and continued drilling the hole from the other side of the board until the 2 holes met. And drilling the holes from both sides like this leaves you with a much cleaner hole, but you need to be pretty precise with your hole location layout, hence the jigs I created. And I just continued drilling holes until I had all of them done, which really took a while. It was 33 holes in total, which might not sound like a lot, but Ipe is pretty tough to drill through, and I made sure to really take my time so I didn't overheat my Forstner bit. I also made sure to wear a dust mask throughout this entire project because the Ipe dust is particularly nasty stuff. Once all the holes were drilled, I could move on to adding a roundover to all the edges of the boards. If I were to do this again, I'd probably use a smaller roundover or a light chamfer, as adding this heavy of a roundover meant I had a ton of hand sanding work later on. I also got some tear out during this step that I could have avoided with a less intense edge profile. This tear out was especially bad on the ends of the boards, and I really should have added a backer piece to help reduce this, but I didn't since I was kind of rushing. Speaking of sanding, next I had a lot of sanding to do. I started with 80 grit sandpaper using the random orbit sander on the flat surfaces and the ends of all the boards, but I had to hand sand all the long edges since the random orbit sander didn't work very well on those edges. And while I'm sanding, let's talk about one of the sponsors of this week's video, Acme Tools. Acme Tools has served the contractor, woodworker, and do-it-yourselfer since 1948 with a wide selection of tools and equipment from all the major manufacturers. Acme carries all of my favorite brands, including Powermatic, Festool, Milwaukee, DeWalt, and lots more, and their customer service representatives can help you find the right tool for your next project. To learn more about Acme Tools, check out the link in the video description below, and thanks again to Acme Tools for sponsoring this week's project. After sanding, I could get the finish applied. I used teak oil, which is designed to work with these kinds of really dense hardwoods, and it was extremely simple to apply. Basically, you put on a heavy coat, let the wood soak it up for 5 to 10 minutes, apply another heavy coat, let that soak in for a max of about 20 minutes, and then wipe off the excess. And it's pretty important to wipe off the excess before letting it sit too long, since the finish will get gummy and extremely difficult to wipe off otherwise. And I did this since I was trying to finish all these boards at once, and I really should have split them up into 2 batches, working on half the boards at a time just to avoid this. With the boards at their finished size, I could cut my all thread to final length, and I used a portaband for this, but a hacksaw would work just as well. And when you cut all thread like this, you need to make sure to file or sand the ends to form just a slight taper, and this just makes it easier to thread on a nut. The hardware I purchased for this project is zinc coated, which will hold up okay outside, but I also wanted the hardware to match the steel base, which is black, so I gave all the hardware a couple coats of black spray paint, which will also help to protect the hardware from the elements. Once the paint dried on the hardware, I could finally assemble the top, and I just ran the all thread through the holes, adding 2 washers between each board, and also added a flat washer, lock washer, and nut at each end. I made sure all the boards were aligned. Since I did drill those oversized holes, there was a little bit of wiggle room here, and then I tightened all the nuts to secure the boards together. And the lock washers will help to keep the nuts from loosening over time, but since it's summer now, the boards will shrink during the winter, not expand, so I'll most likely have to retighten the nuts after a few months. And with the top done, I could go ahead and get to work on the base, which is just a really simple steel base. I started with 1/8 inch thick plate steel, which I actually got for free from my local metal yard scrap pile, and usually free means extra labor, and a 4-inch wide piece of steel flat bar would have been a lot easier to work with here. Anyway, I needed to first cut my steel pieces to width, so I marked out where I needed to cut and then clamped a straight edge in place. And to make these cuts, I used my Lincoln Electric Tomahawk 375 plasma cutter, which is a really fun tool to use and makes really quick work of these kinds of cuts, but an angle grinder and cutoff wheel would also work if you don't have access to a plasma cutter. Next, I marked out the length of the pieces, which were about 32 inches in my case, and then cut them to length using my metal cutting saw. Once again, an angle grinder and cutoff wheel would also work great here. With the pieces to final size, I cleaned up the edges with a flap disc, removing any of the dross left by the plasma cutter, and also rounding over those corners slightly so they weren't so sharp. Next, I could cut the legs to size, and the legs are splayed at a 10-degree angle, so first I set the fence on the saw to 10 degrees before making the first cut. The legs are made of 1/8 inch thick, 3-inch square tubing, and I needed about 10 feet of tubing for this whole build. Each leg is cut to 26.5 inches long with a 10-degree angle on each end. Once the legs were cut to size, I beveled 4 of the edges on one end of the legs using the angle grinder just to give a better area for the welds to penetrate. Next, I could get the legs and plate set up for welding, and the legs are set in 5 inches from the ends of the steel plate, but I totally spaced during this step and lined up the inside edge of the leg with this line rather than the outside edge, and I just had to make some adjustments to the length of this steel plate because of this, but just pay attention, you'll be fine. After making sure the plate was seated well with the leg, I clamped the leg in place and then got to welding, first tacking the piece into place. Once it was tacked, I turned the leg assembly on end and ran full-length beads on all 4 edges. After getting the first leg added, I went ahead and welded the other leg and then repeated the process for the other set of legs. And this is a really simple base, and the welding process only took a few minutes on each set of legs. Once both leg assemblies were finished, I could mark out the locations for the holes that the screws would run through to attach the base to the top. And I wanted to make sure I had at least 1 screw in each board. I ended up with 2 in each board, so I measured out these hole locations and marked them out. Next, I added some cutting fluid and then drilled all the holes, and I made sure the holes were slightly oversized just to account for any wood movement. After drilling the holes, I flipped the base over and countersunk the holes from the other side, and this removes any burr left from the drilling process, but it also allows the head of the screws to sit flush with the surface of the base. To prep for paint, I used a clean and strip disc to remove any of the mill scale and surface rust from the steel, and I got caught in a rainstorm on the way home from the steel yard when I went to purchase this stuff, so it did have a little bit of surface rust that needed to be removed. After stripping the rust, I wiped down the entire base with acetone before adding a few coats of flat black enamel paint. To help protect my patio from the steel legs and also keep the steel from being in contact with water, I added these plastic caps to each of the feet. Finally, I could attach the base to the top using 1¼ inch exterior rated screws, and I made sure to pre-drill the holes since Ipe is so dense. And once the base was attached, I could struggle and flip the base over, and it was finished. And this thing is not going anywhere. It weighs a ton.
Holy moly. Oh, it's pretty solid, I'd say. I'd say so. I don't think it's going anywhere. Wow, quality. Dude, the quality's in the weight.
Now, in the intro, I also mentioned that I was going to go over building this simple pergola, so let's talk about that for a second. I've been wanting a pergola on this back patio to provide some shade during the day and lighting at night, but most traditional pergolas are just way more ornate than I really wanted. I found this kit from Toya Grid that allows you to put together a super simple pergola in about an hour. I'll have a link to the kit in the video description in case you're interested. The kit comes with 4 corner brackets, 4 metal feet that are used to fasten the legs to whatever surface you're building the pergola on, brackets to attach the cloth shade, and also the shade itself. I went with the 12 foot by 12 foot kit, so I needed to supply 4 12 foot long 4x4s for the cross members, and then 4 8 foot long 4x4s for the legs, and I used cedar for this pergola. The kit comes with really detailed instructions, but basically I just attached the brackets to each of the 4x4s with the included screws, and then made sure the pergola was both square and plumb. Once the feet were in their final location, I fastened the feet to the patio, which is concrete in my case, so I used concrete anchors. I also attached some string lights, which gives the pergola a really nice feel at night and provides lots of light for eating dinner outside or just hanging outside. And with that, the pergola was done. All right, hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. I am just super happy with the way this table turned out. I think it's gonna hold up really, really well. As I said in the video, this Ipe is just really kind of perfect for outdoor furniture. It is insanely heavy though. It's a little bit difficult to work with, but I just think it turned out awesome. Also, I am loving the pergola. I think this has completely transformed our kind of back patio space. This is gonna be great for parties, dinners, that kind of thing. Obviously, the string lights make it feel really nice and kind of homey. I love that the pergola is still really clean looking, very modern, and was really easy to put together. I considered building my own pergola from scratch, but by the time I looked at how much all the materials were gonna cost and how much time it was gonna take, I just figured this kit would be the way to go, and I think it was. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. If you don't already, go ahead and get subscribed to the channel. I put out new project videos like this pretty much every week. Also ring that little notification bell so you don't miss any of my future videos or live streams, which I've started doing a little bit more frequently. Also, I'll have a list of all the tools and materials I used in the video description below in case you guys wanna build something like this for yourself. And last, I just want to mention that I added the YouTube sponsor feature to the channel. Basically, it allows you to support me monthly. You get really cool behind the scenes content. I actually just put out my first ever kind of vlog video only for sponsors and my Patreon supporters. So go check that out. There will be a button below or a link here on the screen. So thanks again for watching, everybody. And until next time, happy building.